Hi students, today we will be discussing a new topic called television, and this topic is very significant in our human history just because of the fact that previously, before the invention of this technology, we were not able to see events that were happening at long distances. So the recording of video information was unavailable in those histories. So after this invention, societies could see into each other and they could see what they are other people are into, and this made us a little lot more connected globally, and that is the importance of television that we are experiencing even right now. There has been a lot of innovations and improvement in this technology of television, and we will be seeing a little bit of preliminary things that are involved in televisions. So the fundamentals will be dealt in this session. So let us see it. So we'll be discussing first about some fundamentals in television. The first thing is the generation of shape or structural content that has been recorded. So for example, if I am recording an apple, apple has a shape somewhat like this, and the shape has to be reconstructed. If there are two apples, I have to reconstruct the shapes of those two apples. That is the first mandatory necessity for a television set. The second thing is the relative brightness of tonal content of these things. So that with that it means that if you have a apple, then it has some places where there is bright spots and dark spots, and the pixel information intensity varies all through the entire image. So that kind of relative brightness information has to be reconstructed. So that is relative brightness, and the third one is the motion, or the how it is moving. So the movement and animation etc. should be reconstructed in the third point. And the fourth one is the sound information. So it's not just going to be just the video information, we need to have the audio information also being reconstructed at the television set. So these four things has to be reconstructed. Similarly, the point of origin of a television system happens to be a camera. So where you are going to record the video information, you should also record the audio information also of the same event. So in that case also, we need to fulfill the four mandatory conditions for a proper television system. The first is the shape of the objects. The second one is the relative brightness of the objects. The third one is the motion or kinematic contents. And the fourth one is the sound. And fifth comes as the optional necessity. It's the additional color information if you can generate. So that comes as the fifth one. The sixth one is, of course, all the real world objects are three-dimensional objects, but we are recording it onto a two-dimensional plane. So if you want to have a three-dimensional perspective, then you need to use technologies, newer technologies which enables 3D vision. So that is the sixth point, and fifth and sixth one are not that basic. It's the next advanced level. The basic things are the first four ones, and we need to learn a little bit terminologies related to television technology. And the first one is the persistence of vision. The persistence of vision is a biological thing. It comes from the fact that our human eyes perceive vision in the form of electrical impulses generated by a set of cells on retina called rod cells and cone cells. These cells work according to some pigments or chemicals called rhodopsin and all, and these chemicals take a little bit of time to get excited, and it transfers its energy to the electrical pathway that leads to the optic center of the brain. For this process, it takes a little bit of time. Suppose your information is changing very fast, then the image at the retina might be changing very fast, but the processed image might not be changing at that fast rate. So that is because basically these are all chemicals, and it takes some time to replenish the chemicals. So that delay is called persistence of vision. As a result, what happens is that if you are being given a picture and it is suddenly removed, that picture information stays for a while on your retina, and that is called persistence of vision. And the advantage of having a persistence of vision is that if you are being subjected to very fast varying set of images which have small variance, which means that if I am changing my hand from this point to this point, like in small steps like this, then if these images are being continuously fed into your eyes, it will not be seen as a distinct image, but it will be looking like a continuous image. That is how persistence of vision can be used to trick our eye so that it seems like a continuous motion, but we are just subjecting our eyes to a series of similarly varying images, and these images are called frames. So in usual cases there will be 25 frames per second that are given to your eyes in the from the television set. So each of these images are called frame. So one frame will be having say like 525 lines. So it's like this. So this is one frame. You can see this guy over here. This is one frame, and in this frame there can be many lines, horizontal lines. Okay. So those horizontal lines are again subdivided into pixels. So pixel is the smallest amount of information inside a television system. So when you are recording a scene, then what it essentially does is that it will be recording each of these pixel information from the camera sensor. So the camera sensor is an array sensor where you have an array of sensitive material, and the information from each of these pixels will be electrically scanned. That process is called scanning. Okay, so what you do is you cannot simultaneously scan all these pixels together. Instead, what you do is take the first pixel, then take the next pixel and transmit it, take the third pixel, transmit it, like that. So you'll be scanning each line, and each line contains each pixels, and these pixels will be scanned like this. So it is a serial kind of information transmission. So these informations are transmitted like that, and after the entire frame is completed, then the next frame is taken and that is also scanned. So the scanning process is happening in both sides, that is at the transmitter side as well as at the receiver side. So at the transmitter side, what happens is the camera has a sensor array, and the sensor array information is being scanned one pixel at a time, and it is transmitted. In the receiver side, these pixels are projected onto the television screen. So that is what is happening here, and there are horizontal lines around 525 over a screen, and it varies depending upon the technology, and we will see that. And the speed at which these horizontal traces are being done is around 262.5 times the time taken by vertical trace speed. So this is horizontal tracing, and the first trace, when it completes, it goes to the next line and it traces, and finally it reaches the end of this frame, that is the last horizontal line. So this vertical motion is there as well as the horizontal motion. So this vertical motion is very slower than the horizontal motion. Okay, the horizontal motion is faster when compared with the vertical movement of the scanning process. So that speed is represented like this: vertical trace speed times 262.5 is equal to horizontal trace speed. Okay, so obviously the horizontal trace speed is faster. And there are two types of scanning. Scanning is the process of putting information onto the screen or reading information from the sensor in a camera. So that can be done in two ways. The first way is progressive scanning, where the first line is scanned, then it goes to the second line, then it is scanned, the third one is scanned, fourth one is scanned, like that it reaches the end of the frame. And the second one is the interlaced scanning, where you will be scanning the first line, the third line, the fifth line, the seventh line, etc. After completing all the odd numbered lines, horizontal lines, then that will be considered as a subframe. And then we'll start with the even numbered lines, 2, 4, 6, 8. When the even numbered lines are scanned, that will be another subframe. So a frame will be divided into two. One is a odd numbered subframe and the other one will be a even numbered subframe. Effectively, the frame rate, the rate at which the frames are being transmitted, that doubles when compared with the progressive one in the case of interlaced scanning. So what we get as an advantage is that with the same amount of information, you are transmitting at a double frame rate, but the image, the information content is the same. If you watch the television screen through a mobile phone, then you can see the flickering effect. So this flicker can be reduced by interlaced scanning. So if you have 25 frames in progressive scanning, you can split that each of those frames into 2. So it becomes double the frame rate. So it becomes 50 frames per second. So effectively the flickering will get reduced. So that is called interlaced scanning. The information, when it is scanned from a camera and it is transmitted, and a receiver system receives the information. So the receiver doesn't know where this information has to be placed on the screen. When the TV was switched on, the signal was around here. The television set doesn't know where to put that information. So where that kind of information, where to put, how many frames have passed, or what frame, what is the status of current frame, is it complete or is it incomplete, partial frame, such things can be denoted by synchronization pulses. So those pulses will help in the television receivers to properly generate the image synchronously with the transmission signal. So that is why you will be generating not just the actual video information, you will be also adding some other information so that the transmitter and the receiver are synchronous to each other. The seventh parameter that we are going to discuss is aspect ratio. Aspect ratio means the ratio of the width to height of a television screen. So it can have any ratio of these two, or there are other ratios also. These are the generally seen ratios. That is, one is 16:9 ratio. The second one is a 4:3. 4:3 is a older kind of screen ratio, aspect ratio, and 16:9 is a widescreen aspect ratio. So the ratio between the number of pixels on x-axis and the number of pixels onto the y-axis will give you the aspect ratio. The eighth parameter is pixel density, and it is commonly referred to as resolution. It is measured using a pixels per inch, and it represents how many pixels are there in 1 inch of the television screen. So that represents how much resolution is there, how much clarity is there in your picture. So if this number is much less, then your clarity of the image will be much less. So in this case, the pixels per density, pixel density is much small, and when you increase the pixel density, then the image gets more sharper. So these are the terminologies commonly seen in television technology. So there are some television system standards. The first one is an American standard, and American standard consists of FCC system for monochrome television, which means black and white, and NTSC system for color television. And the European standard that we use in India is of CCIR standard for monochrome and PAL for color. So these are all standards. Standards means how much should be the rate, frame rate, the field frequency, etc. So those parameters are given here. So the lines per frame for US is like 525, but in the case of Europe is like 625. The frames per second for US is 30 frames, and for Europe is 25 frames. The field frequency is 60, and in the case of Europe it is 50 hertz. So it's like that. So these frequencies are in hertz, and this one is in megahertz. The channel width means suppose if you have a television channel, it should have a bandwidth. So that bandwidth is around 6 megahertz for US standard, and it is 7 megahertz for European standards. and we are following the European standard in India. The video bandwidth is like 4.2 in the case of US and 5 megahertz for Europe. So these are the comparison between the US standards and the European standard. And one thing that I have to mention here is that the technology, the modulation technology that is used for the video signal. So in the case of whatever be the television system standard, the video signal will be modulated using amplitude modulation, AM. And it is a special kind of amplitude modulation called vestigial sideband modulation. And why we are using this vestigial sideband modulation is that in general case, if you consider the European standard, it is seen that it requires 7 megahertz, but actual case it is like 10 megahertz. It might require 10 megahertz, but we will be removing a small portion of the lower sideband so that 3 megahertz is saved in the case of European standards. So that kind of a amplitude modulation technology where the lower sideband is partially removed is called vestigial sideband modulation. We are not going into the details of vestigial sideband modulation. We will just take it as it is. And the advantage is that you have saved around 3 megahertz of bandwidth. So if you save for the 2 or 3 television stations, then you can add one more channel into the bandwidth, entire television bandwidth. So that is the advantage. So this bandwidth consists of both audio information and video information. So for just the video information, you require only 5 megahertz. So that is why it is called video bandwidth. Okay. And in the case of audio signals, we will be using another modulation technique called frequency modulation. So this frequency modulation will be used for audio signals, and amplitude modulation, specifically the vestigial sideband modulation technology, will be used for transmitting video signals. Now this is a basic monochrome TV transmitter. It consists of a camera and a microphone to pick up the video as well as the audio information. So the video information in the form of light will be converted into electrical impulses, and those electrical impulses are scanned using scanning and synchronization circuits. So there will be pulses going into the television camera to synchronize the television camera, as well as pulses to the AM modulating amplifier, so that the pulses can be transmitted to the receiver end, because these synchronization pulses are necessary for the effective reconstruction of the signals. And the actual video information will be given to a video amplifier. That video amplifier amplifies the video signals and will be given to an AM modulating amplifier, where the video information, amplified video information, as well as the scanning and synchronization pulses are stacked onto each other and then modulated and given to a power amplifier. So this power amplifier will be taking the crystal oscillators RF frequency and amplified and modulated onto it. And similarly, the microphone will be picking up audio signals, and that will be amplified using an audio amplifier. This will be frequency modulated onto a carrier, and that will be combined with the video information, modulated video information from this side using a combining network and transmitted using a transmitting antenna. So this is how a basic monochrome TV transmitter works. Similarly, you can see a basic monochrome TV receiver where you have a receiving antenna, and the receiving antenna will be picking up signals from the transmitted electromagnetic radiations, modulated ones, and the RF tuner will be used to tune to a particular TV station, and then the information will be demodulated to the intermediate frequencies using super heterodyne receivers, and then the video signal will be detected using video detector, and that will be amplified and given to the picture tube. And the video detector will also generate output for sound also. That sound IF will be given to this sound IF amplifier, and the demodulator will be taking out the FM signal, the audio signal from the FM, and will be amplified and given to a loudspeaker. So here you can see that the video detector is giving three outputs. One is the audio signal, the second one is the video signal, and the third one is the scanning and synchronization signals. So that scanning and synchronization signals will be going to a circuit, and that circuit will try to synchronize the video information so that the video is synchronous with the audio. So this is how a basic monochrome TV receiver works. So with this we come to the end of the module 3, and next we will be seeing operational amplifiers, which comes in another module. So thank you all.